Well, that was a playoff round, everyone. Welcome if you're tuning in. If you're tuning in live, thank you for joining us here. And the MLB playoffs have started off with an absolute bang. What a playoff round we just witnessed, especially this Mets and Brewers game. And I was personally going to do something probably tomorrow, but you know what? I said, screw it. We're going to try out a live stream again because this was just awesome to watch. And I just had to get my thoughts in here. If you want to leave a comment, if you're joining in, go ahead, start a conversation. I know some news just came out that the Reds brought in Terry Francona to be their manager, which is huge news if I would say. I kind of want to start with Mets Brewers though, but part of me wants to save that for last because you know what? That was legit. That was a legit matchup. These two teams lived up. This was a great series in my opinion. Absolutely great series of baseball. Mets Brewers lived up to the hype. I had the Mets winning in 2. It took 3. I was correct on, I think, only 2 of my matchups. I got both AL ones wrong. If you tuned in for our last stream where we predicted the wild card playoffs, I had the Royals and the Tigers losing in 3 games. But I had the Mets and Padres both sweeping the Braves and Brewers. But you know what? The only one that happened that was true was the Braves getting swept by the Padres. So I guess I was 1 for 4 on correct predictions. But you know what? We'll take 2 out of 4 for winners. But you know what? We are going to start with, I want to start talking along the lines of, let's see here. I want to start on the AL side of things. I really want to save the this Brewers and Mets series for last because this was awesome. So, first of all, we had 2 sweeps in the AL side of things. I was worried this was going to be a very boring playoff round when I saw 3 sweeps, but overall, it's pretty nice. Tigers and Astros. Let's start with Tigers Astros. I want to go to see if I can find game by game here. So, game 1, the Tigers took 3-1. Looking at it right here. The keys to the game were the Tigers were able to get under the Astros skin, especially. This was a great pitching duel. This was a big duel by Tariq Skubal. He was absolutely amazing. I mean, what else could you not want out of him? I'm going to show my screen here. Try to figure this out. Yeah, there we go. So this was the box score for game 1. It was all Tariq Skubal. Easily, let's go down here. Tariq Skubal. This guy was killing it. He was killing it this year. Let's go there. There we go. So his first ever postseason game, this guy goes 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, no runs allowed, has an ERA of 0 in the postseason. This guy absolutely killed it. I'm going to move back here. There we go. This share screen thing's kind of iffy. There we go. So that was game 1. That was story game 1. Framber Valdez personally did not have a great outing. He only went 4 1/3, 7 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Not what you really want out of your ace, but personally, I was thinking that the Astros were going to lose this game. I had all my faith in Tariq Skubal being able to win this game for the Tigers, and it kind of went that way. The Tigers as well were hitting like crazy at 10 hits. All their runs came in the second inning off of Valdez, and then the Astros bullpen kind of locked them down. It was Neris, King, Blanco, Ferguson, and Hader. They kind of just locked down the Tigers this whole time. Blanco had 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 2 innings, so it was kind of rough there. But he didn't let anyone get across. He didn't let any more runs get across. It was okay. But the Tigers, almost everyone in their lineup with hits. Vierling, Malloy, Riley Green, Ibanez, Perez was good. Meadows was good. Rogers good. Sweeney good. So the only starter in this game, only one starter not to get hit was Spencer Torkelson. But we'll get into Parker Meadows in game 2. He had an amazing series, in my opinion. For the Astros, the whole story with the Houston Astros, they just could not get any offense going, which is like kind of tough, especially if you're a team like the Astros that is like on the verge of losing Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman more than likely is not going to be an Astro next season. I think he is done. I think a lot of the players know Alex Bregman is gone. And it happens. It's free agency. Completely get it. It's going to be very weird seeing Alex Bregman not on the Houston Astros. But you know what? Going to be a different Astros team. I think they're going to be completely fine. The Houston Astros are always going to be fine as well, in my opinion. They are going to be a team to watch out for a very long time. They are always going to be. This is the first time in 7 years, I think, that we're not going to have an Astros team in the ALCS. And it's going to be very odd. I think a lot of people are happy about it, and it's going to be a very odd feeling. But yeah, the Astros lost game 1 there. So let's go to game 2 here. So this game was more so we got to see some more offense. And the Tigers did something in game 2 that I really liked. Look how many pitchers. Almost a new pitcher about every inning. Holton, Hannafy, Herter, Brisk, Job, Gunther, and Vest. They used all the guys they could. And the whole game plan is everyone was going to pitch except for Tarek Skubal. That is how the Tigers attacked game 2. And you know what? You have to respect it. And it worked. And I would say the story of this game was Parker Meadows hitting that home run to give the Tigers the lead when he did. It was 1-0 at the time. Then the Houston Astros just took the lead. We'll go to the summary here. So here's the scoring update, how it happened. There was the Parker Meadows homer. John Singleton had the whole fielder's choice, tied it up. Jose Altuve, of course, the sac fly. But then you see this wild pitch happen. Kerry Carpenter comes in, and Andy Ibanez, the bases clearing double. This was the icing on the cake for the Detroit Tigers to win this series, and that's all they needed. A go-ahead 3-run double in the 8th inning. What else could you ask for? Especially the 4-run 8th inning. Is if that pass ball doesn't happen, maybe we're talking about a Tigers Astros, I guess, game 3 today. Maybe we're recapping that instead. But the Tigers, I'm very curious to see this Tigers Guardians matchup. We might be recapping or predicting that in the next couple days when the division series start. And I think those are all going to be bloodbaths. A lot of rivalries we are going to see. But as well, like this Tigers team looked very good. They kind of blew my expectations away. I had them losing in 3. I thought they were going to win game 1, which they did. And I had the Astros taking games 2 and 3 just because I was curious about how this Tigers pitching besides Tarek Skubal was going to go. And I really liked the game plan of using about every pitcher they had. And I'm going to give my props right now to Hunter Brown. There was the whole thing that they had Yusei Kikuchi ready to come in, and they didn't even have to use him. Hunter Brown went 5 2/3, only 2 hits, earned run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and he allowed the home run. That was the point where they ended up taking him out of the ball game. Hunter Brown, props to you. But the Astros are gone. The reign of terror for the Houston Astros, the ALCS, is over. We're going to see 2 new teams in the ALCS for the first time in a very long time. And you know what's funny? 3 of them that are possibly making the ALCS, 3 of the 4 teams left are in the AL Central, a division that used to be probably one of the worst divisions in all of baseball. Now has 3 playoff teams right now. 3 of them are standing. It leagues the league in teams left standing right now. They have 3. The AL East has 1. The NL East has 2, and the NL West has 2. So the AL Central, you could say, are the champions right now of the division series. So we're going to move on, and I want to talk about the Orioles and Royals. Now, this was all about the pitching, and let me just say this. The Orioles had to have the most they have had the most disappointing playoffs right now. The Orioles started the season as the team to beat. I think a lot of people had them as the World Series favorite. And what happened here? Nothing. Their offense couldn't do anything. 5 hits in game 1. I mean, the Royals also had 5 hits, but what did it take? All it was a Bobby Witt Jr. single in the 6th inning. That's all it took to win this game for the Kansas City Royals. And it's like, and you look at this and be like, oh, how'd they lose? But like, how'd Corbin Burns do that? Corbin Burns went 8 innings. You got 8 innings until he allowed a run. He only had 3 strikeouts. He allowed 5 hits. You gave Corbin Burns absolutely 0 run support. That was the problem. The entire problem of this series with the Baltimore Orioles. They just couldn't score runs. They couldn't score any sort of runs to make an offensive game happen. That was an issue that the Orioles, that is, ran into. And it's something that you can't have happen in the playoffs. This team, I think, has now one of the longest playoff drought winning streaks. I think it might be up to 10 games or more. I'm seeing it all over social media. They're up there with the Twins. They just can't win a playoff game to save their lives. This is a team so many people were high up on, and then they lose game 1 at home. I get it. You lost game 1, but your entire offense just fell off. It fell off a cliff. Gunnar Henderson with a strikeout. Westberg strikeout. Santander strikeout. Adley Rutschman with 2 strikeouts. Ryan Mountcastle with 2 strikeouts. Heston Kierstad with 1. McCann with 2. Everyone was striking out. You had 10 strikeouts. Cole Reagan's 8 Ks, pretty good. Like the Royals pitching staff, like bullied the Orioles offense this entire series. We're not even going to get into game 2 yet. So that was just game 1. Final score was only 1-0. You look at the score, it's like not that exciting. It was just a good old fashioned pitcher's duel, you could say. But at the same time, game 2 didn't provide much offense as well for Baltimore. They lost 2-1. That was the final score. This was such another pitching duel, I guess you could say. And it was mainly Zach Eflin. Only went 4 innings, and the Orioles just had to use basically every bullpen pitcher they could imagine. 3 strikeouts for Eflin, allowed the run. Seth Lugo, 4 1/3, 6 strikeouts, 1 run, 5 hits. I guess he outdueled him by a third, but like still, he allowed more hits than Eflin. Eflin kind of looked like the better pitcher besides the strikeouts. But what happened was, look at here, it just takes one mistake. Vinny Pasquantino, RBI single in the first inning. That's all he needed. But then the Orioles come back. Cedric Mullins with the solo homer. But then guess who does it again? I said it was going to be the battle of the shortstops. Bobby Witt Jr. with the go-ahead single in the 6th inning. And that's all it took for the Orioles to lose at home, get swept. Very upsetting if you are an Orioles fan. This was such an upsetting series offensively for the Baltimore Orioles. And what we see here, let's see at all the strikeouts. Gunnar Henderson struck out 3 times. Colton Cowser strikes out 3 times. Ryan Mountcastle, another 2 strikeouts. Adley Rutschman did not strike out this game like he did in the first game twice. But like Cedric Mullins, a strikeout despite the home run. So many strikeouts. They struck out 12 times. In game 1, the Orioles struck out 10 times. Add 12 here, you struck out 22 times in 2 games. This is supposed to be one of the best offenses in baseball. This offense was so hyped, and they just fell off a cliff. They just could not hit a baseball to save their lives in this series, and it is the reason they are watching this. If they're watching this video, they're in Cancun right now. They are out golfing. The Orioles honestly should be ashamed that they could not do anything. The Royals, and I brought this up in our preview, they were one of the worst teams going into the playoffs out of all the playoff teams. They were struggling a lot. They were struggling down the stretch the final month. They almost did not make the playoffs. If it wasn't for the Minnesota Twins falling off the face of the earth, I think the Twins are in the playoffs over the Kansas City Royals. The Tigers caught fire at the right time. That's why they're moving on. The Royals, I think, are very lucky that the Orioles just did not know how to hit a baseball. So the Baltimore Orioles, I think you should be ashamed that you could not do anything in this series, to be fair. But at the same time, like, I have to give props to the Royals. I'm very curious to see how they're going to match up with the New York Yankees. I'm curious if they're going to use this momentum of sweeping the Baltimore Orioles and then maybe giving the Yankees a series. We'll get into that maybe in a future live stream or whatever. I do think the Royals might be in trouble against New York, but I could be wrong. I was wrong about this series. I thought the Orioles were going to win it in 3, but they got swept. So those were the AL. Those were both the AL series, and the NL, I will say, completely cleared those both. I think it only took one series to clear those both, but we're going to save the Mets Brewers for last because this series was awesome. It had all the drama. We're going to start with Padres and Braves. So game 1, we go into all these games and break them all down. Tatis, playoff Tatis, how about it? And we'll start with the pitching. Michael King, 12 strikeouts, 7 innings, 5 hits. This guy was unhittable. Michael King, what a trade by Preller to get him. I thought it was very underrated. And all of his trade targets that he got for Juan Soto, Kyle Higashioka, he had a home run. He also hit one in game 2. And Michael King here, 12 strikeouts in 7 innings. This is the type of pitching you want to see in a playoff matchup. Absolutely amazing. Props to the San Diego Padres for playing a well-pitched series here, especially with Michael King. The Braves just couldn't do anything. They struck out 15 times, 12 of which to Michael King, and Adam with 3 strikeouts himself. They weren't able to. Robert Suarez couldn't strike him out, but Adam and King, they battened down the hatches, basically. They kind of just showed the Braves, sorry, you had to play the day before, but this was the day after the doubleheader. The Padres just got rid of the Braves. They kind of just ended the Braves season here. I thought the Braves were toast after this. 4-0 final. We got a Tatis home run. We saw Higashioka hit the home run. The Tatis home run was absolutely electric. Playoff Tatis is here. I'm excited to see how it goes against the Dodgers. I am so excited, and I mean so excited for the NL portion of this MLB playoffs. The NLDS is going to have 2 rivalries. Phillies, Mets, Dodgers, Padres. What else could you ask for? It is going to be a bloodbath. All those fan bases hate each other. Padres fans hate Dodgers fans, vice versa. Mets fans hate Phillies fans, vice versa. It is going to be such an amazing series, and I am so excited. The Braves just couldn't do anything game one. Not much to talk about. Michael Harris, I guess, had a pretty solid series, and we'll get to more of him in game two. But moving on, let's go to game two here. Cover this as quick as possible because this series didn't really hype me up as much as Mets Brewers. So over here, the Padres win game two, 5-4. And we had the Joe Musgrove. He got taken out. Higashioka, props to him. He noticed something in the Joe Musgrove windup. And me watching, if you're not really a big baseball fan, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. But I was kind of tuning in and tuning out of this game. And I saw the highlights, and you could clearly see something was kind of up with Joe Musgrove's windup a little bit. Higashioka picked it up. They took out Joe Musgrove after 3 2/3. So hopefully Joe Musgrove is fine. Hopefully it's not a big injury if it is an injury. Hopefully he's going to be fine. You don't like to see that. Max Fried, yikes. This is part of the reason the Braves couldn't do much. They're playing on short rest. I get it. And I think they had the harder travel than the Mets, who only had to go to Milwaukee. But, like, buddy, 2 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, all earned, 2 strikeouts, and allowed a home run. Not good at all. So let's look at the scoring summary. Started with Marcell Ozuna. The Braves got the first lead of the series. He had the sac fly. And then we just talked about him. Kyle Higashioka, part of the Juan Soto deal. A home run. He already has 2 in the postseason. He's seeing the ball well against this Atlanta Braves team. I'm very excited to see how he's going to hit, how he maybe continues this little bit of a hot streak, maybe against the LA Dodgers here in round 2. Manny Machado had a crazy double down the left field line. Jackson Merrill, RBI triple. Like, these guys are just hype hitting the bait. Like, look at the reactions there in these photos, especially the Jackson Merrill one. Jorge Soler hit a home run to get this game back to where it was, got them back into it. But then in the top of the 8th, we just talked about Michael Harris. He hit a home run. That made it a 2-run game. Oh, a 1-run game, that is. Made it 5-4. Sadly, that's all it was. Michael Harris is probably the best Braves player in this series, I would say. He had 2 hits in game 1. We'll pull back up the box. Game 2, 3 hits. This guy batted .625 in 2 games. It's all you could ask for a team that lost both games. Michael Harris looked good in the playoffs. He had a tough start of the year, but he kind of woke up in the second half, and he looked pretty good in the postseason. Sadly, only get to see it for 2 games. So that was that series. Not really much. I don't really want to talk about a lot. Like Fernando Tatis and Kyle Higashioka stole the show for the Padres. Tatis, if you're looking at it, had more hits than Higashioka, but Higashioka kind of stole the show with all his homers. But yeah, Tatis, Higashioka, those are those guys that look good. Jackson Merrill looked amazing this series. I was curious how playoff Jackson Merrill was going to adjust, and he adjusted completely fine. He really did. So we're going to move on. And here we go. I think this was the best series of the MLB playoffs. We're going to start with game 1. I had the Mets winning this series 2-0. They ended up winning it 3-2, 3-2-1. I don't know why I'm saying 3. I'm getting ahead of myself. Mets win game 1, 8-4. Luis Severino with the win. It was an iffy start for Severino. 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 3 of which earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. It took a while for him to get adjusted, and once he kind of settled down after allowing 4 in those, after especially the first inning, he kind of did settle down, I would say. But like the Mets, the big thing was getting innings out of Severino. They were coming off short rest. They just had a doubleheader. They got the innings. They got 6 innings out of their guy. The Brewers had to go through their bullpen a little bit, and that's part of the reason the Mets won this game. The Mets looked really good in game 1. Look at the scoring summary. Bring that up here. Started William Contreras with the RBI single. Made it 1-0. Rhys Hoskins hit by pitch 2-0. When I was watching this happen, when I watched this inning happen, I thought it was going to unravel quick. I thought the Mets were in trouble, but he kept it at 2-0. That's all it took. Jesse Winker with the triple. This was a lot of drama that happened on this triple. He was barking at Willie Adames. They were not getting along. Brewers fans were booing like crazy. This tied it up. And former Bucco Starling Marte, we know him and love him. Sacrifice fly made it 3-2 to score Jesse Winker. Jackson Chourio ties the game 3-3. He was fun to watch in the playoffs. These rookies, Merrill and Chourio, were very fun to watch in the postseason, in my opinion. William Contreras gives them the lead, 4-3. Jose Iglesias ties it up. The OMG Mets, they tie it right up 4-4. Mark Vientos gives them a 6-4 lead. JD Martinez continues to blow the door open, 8-4, and that's all it took. The Mets, both offenses were thriving in this series, by the way. Game 1, you only see 8 hits to 7 if you're looking just at the box score. This was such a great series for offense. This was the series to watch if you were a fan of offense, in my opinion. I know the Padres were able to score runs, and especially in Game 2, the Braves, Padres. But the AL, if you're a fan of pitching, the AL wild card was for you. But if you're a fan of all things offense, this was the NL wild card. So Game 1 went to the New York Mets. Let's go to Game 2. So Game 2, we'll pull it up right here. Milwaukee took it 5-3. This was a must-win for the Brewers. They needed it, and they got an outing out of Frankie Montas that they probably wanted. This is a guy that I'm not really that high on. He only went 3 2/3, 6 hits, 3 runs. It was only 1 earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Sean Manaea as well had a pretty nice outing for the Mets. 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, both earned. 4 strikeouts, allowed a homer. So we're going to look here very quick at the scoring summary. Break it down really quick. Brandon Nimmo made it 1-0 with the single. Jackson Choria with his first ever postseason home run made it 1-1, made it tie game. Francisco Alvarez with a single made it 2-1. Sacrifice fly for Francisco Lindor, who many think should be an MVP candidate. I think he is a candidate for the award. I don't think he's going to win it, but he is a candidate. Got to give respect where it's due. Blake Perkins made it 3-2 with the sac fly, and then here's where the fun happened. Jackson Chourio hits his second homer of the ball game, by the way. He makes it 3-3, and then the next thing that happened, Garrett Mitchell, 2-run bomb. The Brewers I guess Garrett Mitchell kind of just owned the Mets in this series. This was a guy that the matchup didn't look enticing when they were pitching to him, and that's all it took. 2 home runs, the one tied it, and then right after, Garrett Mitchell makes it 5-3. They blew it open, and that's all it took in the 8th. 5-3 was the final, and this was setting up for the only series to need 3 games. The only series that needed a Game 3. And the New York Mets and Milwaukee Brewers, give them a round of applause. This was such a great series of baseball, and let's get into Game 3. Let's do it. Do it really quick. So, Milwaukee Brewers, New York Mets, Game 3. This is going to be one that Mets fans remember for a very long time. As you can see, the Mets were down 2-0 this entire game, and then the top of the 9th happened. 4 runs in the top of the 9th. So, what happened, you may ask? Myers, solid outing, 5 innings, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts. Jose Quintana, I think he had the better outing. I know both pitchers pitched very well, starters tonight. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And then the Mets bullpen kind of blew it a little bit. And then it got a little nerve-wracking because that was in the 7th. And then the 9th inning happened. There was the whole fiasco with Pete Alonso in I forget what inning it was. He missed a ball along the net. And a lot of Mets fans, I think, were worried that was going to be the final way Mets fans remember Pete Alonso's career as a New York Met, because he is a free agent. I personally think he's leaving the Mets. I think he's going to test free agency. I don't think the Mets are going to give him the money he wants. I could be wrong. I probably will be wrong. But this New York Mets team has a lot of resiliency. It can show. I was looking at the score, and I was like, it's 2-0 going into the 9th. I think the Mets might be done here. But I was wrong. I was very wrong here. And Devin Williams comes in, and this is probably the worst Devin Williams outing you can ever remember. One of them. 2/3, 3 hits, 4 runs, all earned, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and allowed the infamous home run that Mets fans and Brewers fans will remember for a very long time. So this started with Jake Bauers making 1-0 Milwaukee. And then right after, back-to-back, Sal Frelick made it 2-0. And that's how the Brewers offense was able to get going. But let me just tell you, what happened next was absolutely awesome to watch live. Pete Alonso, the guy that made a little bit of a blunder, the guy that I was seeing so many tweets about, saying, oh, this might have been Pete Alonso's last ever moment with the Mets. The thing we're going to remember him as. The guy that couldn't miss the ball along the net. What happens? Pete Alonso homers on a line drive to right center field. Francisco Lindor scores. Brandon Nimmo scores. This was by far one of the most hype home runs I can ever remember in the playoffs. The Mets, this was the home run. This was the home run that saved the Mets season today. It is the home run that saved the New York Mets to keep them alive another day. This is the home run that propelled the New York Mets into a series against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets, I don't think were expected to make it this far, and this is probably one of those teams that could be a team of destiny. I can't believe I said that. I'm an avid, I'll raise my hand when people say, are you a Mets hater? I am a Mets hater. I do not like the New York Mets. But this Pete Alonso home run right here, this was fun. This was very fun to watch, and this NLDS is going to shape up to be a very fun one. But Pete Alonso, how about it? He hits a home run, and right after, there was a Jesse Winker. He got on base. Starling Marte, the former Bucco, does it again. He gets an RBI single to give them another insurance run. They were only up by 1. He gave them the RBI single. He made it 4-2. Awful outing for Devin Williams. Not what you want to see. So, the MLB wild card round this year. Absolutely awesome. I loved it. It was awesome to watch. Mets take this series 2-1. Overall, looking back at my predictions for the wild card, I got 2 of the winners right, and they were both in the National League. But I had the Mets sweeping the Brewers. That was the only difference I had. I had the Padres sweeping the Braves. I got both AL ones wrong. I had the Tigers and Royals losing in 3. And yeah, so if I'm looking at this wild card round, I think the best looking team coming out of the wild card round to give a team kind of some trouble, and we'll get into this in a later stream. If I'm just reacting right now, I think the team that might be in the most trouble right now is in the NL side. I'm looking at the Phillies and Dodgers. Both the Mets and Padres looked really good in their wild card rounds. And we see it every single year in the wild card, where a team like the Diamondbacks will go on a run. They will go on a run because they're the hottest team right now. The Mets, I think, have a lot of momentum after this series. I think they do, especially after that Pete Alonso home run. I think that home run woke up the offense. That kind of was sluggish this game. It woke up the offense that we saw in Game 1. We didn't see much of it in Game 2. It woke up the offense. But then we also know the Padres. The Padres and Dodgers, they have a great rivalry. They had some great games this year, and I think it's going to be a fun series as well. And we'll get to it in a later time when I'll probably go live and talk about the NLDS and ALDS. Personally, I am way more excited for the National League side of the division series this season. The AL side looks enticing. Like I said, 3 AL Central teams. They are the last, basically, division standing, I guess, that has the most teams left. 3 teams. It's 3-on-1 against the New York Yankees. Maybe something crazy can happen. I think if you're just looking at that side on paper, you're probably thinking the Yankees can do it. But we've seen it a lot of times. The Yankees just fall short. But I think if there's a team to look out for on the AL side that could be upset, just reacting to this, maybe the Guardians. I like the Tigers. I like Tarek Skubal to at least win one of those 5 games. But yeah, Royals, Yankees, we'll get into that at a later time. I'm not really excited for that matchup for a Royals fan standpoint. But let me just say this, the NL side of the playoffs is going to be fun. Here's the bracket. This is going to be a blast to watch, especially these 2 matchups. You have 2 great rivalries, Mets, Phillies, Padres, Dodgers. These fan bases absolutely hate each other, especially Padres and Dodgers. They hate each other, guys. They hate each other. This is going to be fun to watch. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in to this live stream. Thank you all for watching. If you were in here live, thank you for joining for a little bit. But yeah, we're going to go live at a later date just to discuss things along the lines of the division series. We're going to look at the matchups. We're going to see what they look like. We might do that tomorrow because the first games are on Saturday. But yeah, thank you all for watching. It's been fun. Yeah, those are your matchups. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the wild card round, and we'll be back another time soon. So thanks for tuning in.